Sorry? I don't recall exactly what words we're up to. Do you have a marking on this? Excuse me? Yeah, okay. That's about where I was going to start. So I want to go a few lines above that, so we'll have some kind of a beginning. I want to start from the line, in the middle of the page of Nun. The line starts in the word loy. In the middle of the line, v'kol zeh yuval. So we explained and we discussed the principle that in the moshel that the mashpia has to be mitzamtzim his seichel. This tzimtzum, it does not have as a function the lessening, the withholding, but it has as a function the producing, the hashpor. And this is so much so that ultimately, as a result of this narrow revelation, the Talmud gets really the full richness of it. Except he will have to work in it, and through that get to the full richness of the Seichel HaMashpia on every level. We spoke one time about the fact that, we breathe through our nose. We take in the air. And this air is what makes it possible for us to live. We need air to live. There are two ways that you can take in air. You can take in the normal way, exposed to the open air, and you can take in the air via tubes that you put into your nose, and then you have an oxygen tank. God forbid somebody who's not well, they have to do it sometimes because they need pure air, whatever it is. He breathes through his nostril, through a tube, into his nose. And he draws air from a tank. And this tank has to be refilled all the time. What is the difference between these two? Since in both instances, he breathes through a narrow passage, his nose, namely, And what is the difference? The difference is that when he breathes from the open air, so even though he takes in through his nose, but he recognizes he's exposed to the entire world. In other words, the entire world is a place for life. Not just this spot where he's taking this air. So that this little air that he takes gives him a real sense of life in the world. Not just personal life, that he's alive and not dead. But he's actually living, so to speak, in a living world, a world that sustains life. Whereas when he breathes through a tube, he doesn't have that sensation, that sense that he's living in a living world. He's alive because there's oxygen going into his lungs. It's a narrow, limited life. Doesn't have the sense at all that he's living in a world that sustains life, that welcomes life, that allows you to, that regardless of the fact that you're taking air through a narrow passage, but actually it's available unlimited and everywhere. Doesn't have that. That was the true essence of the fact that the world provides for life through air. He doesn't have. He has the end result, that the air passage goes into his lungs. This is the Indian. The Rab is mitzamtzem the seichel. The seichel is a broad Indian. A broad Indian means that if you really have a sense of the whole seichel, you see its truth in so to speak, on the primary level. Like we said, seichel atzmi. Knim is a seichel. You see that then the reality of the seichel, the profound truth of the seichel. He gets just a narrow passage, an argument, a point. But he is given sense in this point, and this point is actually connected and revealing and the entire truth of the seichel. And he senses that he's getting a real thing, not just a narrow thing, like breathing through a tube. Another point? What's the pshat? In essence. Did you hear it? I know you didn't. Sorry. What happened? You didn't have a night last night? And you had a full day? Laila HaYom Yoir?
Yeah, me to sleep after. Sorry,
Well,
He's
I
out
don't
of
know.
mind,
I don't know. Okay. Huh?
I'm worried about the sons. I don't see them, so
All right. But you Chaim, got it, right? On the kol zeh yuvan, okay, we have the line in the middle of the page, the line starts with the word loy. On the kol zeh yuvan, from all of the above, it will be understood, eich, we'll be able to understand eich, how is it that shekoyach ha'hagbol v'ha'hester shall mashpia, that this koyach that the mashpia has of to be magbil and to be mastir the seichel, masha mitzamtzim u'malim sichloi, where he contracts and narrows his seichel and conceals the broadness seichel, the derech tzora, and puts it into a nutshell. Ubimsholim, and in Misholim, in allegories, Ukedaima. Ein zeh hester amiti klal. It is not a true hester. I want to attend to the words that he's saying, focus in on the words. But he says, what is the addition of these words to koyach ha'hagbola v'hester shel mashpia? We are talking about the fact that the seichel was nisamtzim and was nela. We're talking about the tzimtzum of the seichel. What does it have to do with the koyach to be magbil?
It's one from the koach of the sechel, also the tzamtzum.
So me?
It's also koach of the sechel. It can be tzamtzum from the koach of the sechel.
Okay, so how does that affect what we are trying to understand here? Right. True, you have to have the koyach to be mitzamtzim.
But in the way that Mikabel can get the oim, the koach tzimtzum to mitzamtzum in such a way that the Talmud can get to the oim lekach. Nimus hakavona.
Right. You probably mean it, but you're not saying the nekuda. The nekuda is that this koyach ha'hagbola in the mashpia comes from the same source as the koyach of Gilui. As the koyach of Gilui, expressing the seichel. In other words, this hagbola, how is the mashpia able to be magbil the seichel? Because he understands the seichel so well and so thoroughly that he can put it into words. So where is the Hagbola coming from? From the Seichel, from the broad Seichel, not from the narrowness of the Seichel. Like we learned all the way in the back, in the beginning, that it's the Seichel itself, the Koyach HaMaskil itself is Megala the Seichel and also Magdal the Seichel. Remember that? Right. And the koyach of mitzamtzim the seichel, and to memalim, comes from the seichel itself. It's not an external, and something that is external into the seichel and just controls the seichel. It comes from the seichel itself. Now the mashpia, because of his profound understanding of the seichel, he's able to put the seichel through a narrow pathway. But reach seichel, the same seichel that he knows himself. This is the great point of it. That's why I said the koyach ha'hagbola. If the seichel would be not mugbal, from outside, let's say somebody hears a shir, and he is not up to understanding the shir. It's above his head, it's not his level. And he understands certain words here and there. He doesn't have the whole shir. Only has these words. Because the Hagbola there comes not because of the Mashpi is Magbil, it's because of his own Hagbola that he's not capable of understanding it. But when the Hagbola comes inside the Mashpia, then the Hagbola itself comes from the Seichel. And then the whole Seichel is into it.
The reason we spoke before that Sechel by itself, it cannot exist, but only when you have Gila and Simson together.
Yeah,
Like any, by definition, Seichel, it's...
that's called Seichel HaGolus. Van Koyach HaMaskil and Seichel HaGolus.
So, it's Mashpia all the time when he's even not talking to the Talmud, he used the...
Even when the Mashpia uses Seichel for himself to understand, it's also Seichel. Like, relative to the Koyach HaMaskil, it's a Mugbal Likirin.
So what's the Chidush when he's talking to the Mikabel, he's used the Koach HaMitzamtzim. He's always used the Koach HaMitzamtzim. So always in this.
Right. The difference is that the Seichel, as it comes to the Mashpia, is in Samsim through the Koyach HaMaskil, and the Seichel that comes to the Mashpia, to the Makabel, is in Samsim through the Koyach HaSeichel of the Mashpia. It's a different level. I was just thinking, I gave you before the illustration from breathing, and you missed it. From breathing, you breathe through your nostrils, but actually you're breathing from the open air in the entire world. It's an interesting thing to understand that the breathing process, how does the air go into your nostrils? What makes the air go into your nostrils? The air pressure. What's air pressure? The entire air. So you're actually breathing from the entire air. You're taking in through a narrow passage. But what is the sensation of breathing? Be exposed to open air. That's when you breathe. Whereas on a tube, in an oxygen tank, there is a pressure in the tank. It's not the same thing at all. It's not the same experience at all. And this is how the Seichel is. Seichel Metzumtzum, there's a sense that this Seichel Metzumtzum is actually being forced out by the bigger Seichel. And this is how the Makabel takes this limited Seichel and begins to climb his way to the real Seichel. Okay. So Ein Zehester Amiti Klal, Sheine Mastin Be'emes Klal, because in truth he is not Mastin at all. Mastin Be'emes means that he gets only that and he doesn't have any more. And here that's not true. In truth he's not Mastin. Shari HaMekabel, since that the Mekabel Al Hashpah receives through this Hashpah Kol Oimek Pnimis Kavonos Harav. The entire depth of the kavan, of the intent that the Rav wants to give it. Im kein ein ze hester. Therefore, it follows that this is not a hester. What then do we need a hester for? Elo, except shapul as a hester who, that the effect of the hester, what is the hester for? It is only sheyuchal hamkabel lekabel, so that the makabel should be able to receive the seichel. Ki balodei hahester, because without the hester hainu HaYom megala le'ez haseichel k'meishu etzloi, if he should reveal the seichel to the makabel the way he has it himself, HaYom mizbalbelim legamri chushei hamkabel. So the senses of the Makabel would be completely confused. The Makabel would not be able to sense what the Seichel is about. HaYom Makabel Klal. And then he would not be receiving at all. Av Gam Chitzonis HaSeichel, not even the Chitzonis of the Seichel. Umikol Shikein Shel HaYom Makabel Es Pnimis Kavanos. Surely he would not be receiving the Pnimis HaKavana but not receiving anything, because he would be completely confused. But then, through the process of the Helam v'Hester, so he gets at least, at the minimum, the Oyer Chitzonis HaSeichel. And then he is able to reach the depth of the Pnimis Kavonas Harav. The Nimtzo, therefore, it comes out. Hester shal hamashpia einoi hester amiti klal. It comes out, therefore, that the hester of the mashpia is not a true hester at all. Does not have the function of hester. On the contrary, its function is, and its intent is to reveal. The union that he has an intention to reveal means that he brings down the oir haseichel shel hamashpia gam pnimis v'yasmis chochmosei, even the pnimis and the etzem of his chochm. The whole thing is the full understanding, the full concept that mashpia has. To a much lower place. Shagam shom yoyer v'yizgale oyer hamashpia. It brings it to a lower place, so that there too, in that lower place, would also shine the oyer hamashpia. V'hainu b'hamakabel kotel, which means by the small makabel she'ini be'er hamashpia klal, the makabel who is not comparable at all to the mashpia. Gamhu Yovin v'yasik oir hamashpia, that he too will be able to understand and comprehend the oir hamashpia. Gam oimek pnimius atzmis chochmosei. Ultimately, even the depth of the pnimius and even the atzmis of his chochmah, as we discussed the other day. Therefore it comes out, in truth, that in essence this is not a hester, on the contrary, maybe as canal. This hester is actually has the function of gilui. It has a function of Gilui, and it actually is rooted in Gilui. Like we said before, it is the Seichel of the Mashpia that devises the way to be Mashpia, to be Mitzamtzim the Seichel. Tadug, Mikol Zeh Yovan Lamaylo, Be'inin Shemavai Velikim. Okay, now got back to our inyan that we discussed. The way the normal Lamailo regarding these two names of Hashem, Havaya and Elikim, and he asked a question. He asked a question originally. How can you say Havaya and Elikim is Kul Echad? Havaya and Elikim has two opposites. Havaya is the Inyan Hagilu, Bligvul, and Elikim is the Inyan Tzimtzum. So it started saying that yes, Elokim is the Inyan HaTzimtzum, but this is not the essence of Elokim is not Tzimtzum. The essence of Elokim is Shem Havaya. Except Shem Havaya becomes Nizgala through the Shem Elokim. But the essence is the Inyan HaGilui. And we had this whole discussion of the Moshel of Mashpia Mekab. And now we can understand how it is in Shem Elokim. The Shem Elokim or Bechinas Midas HaTzimtzum VeHaHester. Shem Elokim, this is the the element of tzimtzum and hester, shemitzamtzim or master al eir shem havayim, that it conceals and contracts, limits the oil of shem havayim, b'gdei sheyuchal liyes his havos ha'ilams, in order to facilitate make possible the creation of worlds. And in order to create worlds, you have to be master the oyer v'shem havayim. Now we're going to discuss what is Shem Havaya that it needs in order that it should create worlds. It needs to be it has to be put through a tzimtzum and hester. The hin and his boiling heel, because we explained previously the Shem Havaya who Mikeir Hagil. Shem Havaya, this is the source of Gilui. What is the principle of Gilui? Shem Havaya is Mekor HaGilui. Now we have to bear in mind a couple of points. The minute you say the name Havaya, a name implies that you're not speaking about Hashem himself. That's what it says, Onoichi Havaya Lekech. Onoichi, this is completely beyond and it cannot be referred to by name. Doesn't have a name. Hashem does not have a name. Because a name can be applied only to something that is definable. You can explain what you're talking about. You have a name. But Hashem does not have a presence that you should be able, that you can refer to it by name.
His Megala through the Shemus. It's the way he relates to the world.
So,
it's not really more on the essence. The essence, we can't say anything.
sorry?
The essence, we really can't say anything about it. Because everything we go to say serves as a limitation. Because our sacred is movable. But the Shemus give us an opportunity to relate to Hashem. And that's how, through that, he brings the life into the world.
The thing is that it's true that we relate to Hashem through the Shemus. But the Shem itself is the force of the creation. The Shem itself is a Gilui from the Elokus, and that is the Koyach of creation. This is where the creation takes place. The creation is not an essential presence, it's a creative presence. A creative presence means it's created and has to be continually maintained. Because it's all an oyer, it's all an Gilui. It's not an essence. So the Shemus, this is what creates.
Self-perpetual.
But it's not self-perpetuating. The Shem is a Gilui Oyer from Hashem that that is constantly creating it. Sorry?
The Sabbath is like the constant will is constantly causing something to come out of nothing.
Yeah, but then this is
not
what.
a regular name.
What?
Most people are called by like a pronoun, something. Havaya is unique. It's a verb. It's an action. It's causing something to come out of nothingness and into something.
Yeah, but not right. Yeah, but the creation, the world is not self-perpetuating. As well, it has to be maintained all the time because it's just a gilui.
I don't understand. What does mean Gilui? Let's say before Gilui, it was like Hashem, his best. That's it. Gilui, what does mean Hashem make a Gilui? What it changed? What happened in that time? He decided to reveal some part, like.
You know, Hashem is sometimes called Mokim. When you said, I go to Baruch HaMokim Baruch Hu. Why is Hashem called Mokim? So the Gemara says, actually, on a different posik, Hu Mekoim Shalom, in Oila Mekoim. He gives the place for the world. What does it mean he gives the place for the world? In our understanding, see, we have to focus in and understand the Indian the way it is in truth, not the way we are used to thinking. When I have the subject and I want to put it down someplace, I'm not thinking that there has to be a place created for it to fit, to go. I'm looking for a place where there is no other object, and I'll put it down. But that place itself, if there's no other object, that place is just there. It's vacancy. There's nothing there, so I can put this down. But that's not the real truth. That's a very superficial view of things. Because the physical space is the creation and facilitates the existence of physical objects. Makes possible. This is a gilui. Because mitzad Hashem himself there is no space. It's all ayin. And there is no possibility of anything to exist. So what is the concept of Gili? Okay, here's what we need to understand. We learned that, what it says in its HaYom, that before the Tzimtzum, there was Oirin Soiv Memali Mokim HaCholo. You heard that. And then there was a Tzimtzum, and the Tzimtzum made a Cholo Mokim Pom. What does that mean, made a Mokim Pom? Huh?
Not to take it literally.
I'm sorry?
It's not literal.
What does it mean? Literally or not literally?
What? Basically, he
Mokim Pom.
absent in order to shoot the light of the cow to create the mark over shot.
What is it shot in a Cholo Mokim Pom? Before that he says that Oirin Soif was Memali Kol Mokim HaCholo, V'lo HaYom Mokim La'amidas Oiros. There was no place where to put the words. And then they became a Cholo Mokim Pom, and that created a place where to put the words. What does that mean? So I want you should try to understand what it means there is no place to put words. World, by definition, means the following. World means it is here because it was made to be, but it could also not be. That's world. That's what we say. World is a milo, mato, dalatzitik. And it's mokim uzman. That means it's brought into existence. If I see this object, I know somebody brought it in. It wasn't here all the time. World, by definition, means something that could be and could not be. And if it is there, it's because it was brought into me. When there's Oirin Soif does not have that sense that it could be and not be. It could not be. What? What happened? Oh. Let us in here.
But now, for wearing sockets, this box is not too natural. It has to be okay, right?
No. Is it here?
You can't even see it. It's completely hidden.
No, but it's take in terms of Mokim Uzman, right? Right now it's here. Right now it's not here. That's world.
But it's from our point of view, but if you say, look from the top.
From the top, that's right. Looking from the top, the whole definition of world is that it is something that has to come into existence. That's why it is limited to Mokim Uzman. Something that is a primary presence is not world.
For the primary presence?
Primary presence from them that is there all the time. Primary. And Elokus does not come into existence. Like the Rambam explains what is Hashem. Mitziusim Yatzmusay. There's nothing preceding him. World is just the opposite. It doesn't have its own mitzias. So when there is Oirin Soif, Memale Mokim Acholu, Oirin Soif doesn't allow for the whole concept of world. Because there is no such thing as not as yes and no. It's a primary truth. So there had to be a tzimtzum. A moderate tzimtzum makes it says mokim cholol. However you understand the mokim cholol. The point is that now there is a place where there is nothing there, and you can now come and bring. And if there's something going to be there, you're going to bring it in, just like we breathe with our nostrils. Huh?
Really, he was there. He just made himself like he was.
That's right. And that's another reason to understand the whole concept of tzimtzum. Well, the point is, so in essence, in truth, of course he is there, but you don't see it. It's completely concealed, and what you see is that only that which is created is there. And created means it's created in a limited fashion. Now it's step by step, like a carve, just like I said, every action that we do. If you drink something, you can't drink the whole cup at once. You have to drink by to a straw. You have to breathe through a nostril. And this is the whole this is the concept of world, and everything has to come through an organized fashion. That's why it's called a kav. To learn. So the meaning of gilui, this is a gilui. Gilui, the pshat, that it's not the essence, because the essence has no place of world for world. Because it's the opposite. The definition of world is that it came into being, and the definition of essence is that it never came into being. Excuse me? It just is. There's no possibility of combining the two.
The gila is like way of the expression of the essence.
What?
The gila is the way of the expression of the essence. Like you want to express.
That's right. But it's only a gilui. You're megala the sinyan. That means that you're megala, but it's not the essence. But Shemavai is megala. And megala, what where it's coming from, but it's gilui. Not essence. So even though Shemavai is a gilui without restraint, just like the Seichel Horav, like I said, Seichel Horav. So the Seichel Horav is a huge Seichel. And there's even Seichel Atzmi, when they said Seichel Atzmi, Seichel Pimi, still, it has a source where it's coming from. It's coming from Koyach HaMaskin. And the Rav has experienced the process of getting to know it. If he didn't experience the process of getting to know it, he doesn't have the seichel. Seichel is only if you experience learning it, no matter how great the seichel is. Something that you know without having experienced getting to know it is not known.
What is
This is in our world. This is not knowing. This is what the nefesh knows. What the nefesh knows is not something which is provides the potential for our learning, but this is not the knowledge. The nefesh knows everything, but it's not our knowledge. Even in the case, like if you know this boy that I always mention, that there was a boy who knew the whole Torah at birth. Because before a baby is born, he learns the whole Torah. Huh? That's right, he didn't get a Schnell over here. So Maisa. It happened at Stroil some years back. And this boy, he knew the whole Torah, but he didn't know anything. He was a total ignoramus. Because he didn't acquire this knowledge. Knowledge, Bayash, is only if it comes through a conduit. You experience getting to know it. You can be a great genius. And you can learn extremely fast, but it has to be learned. You have to go through the process of learning. If it's something that flies into your head, that's not called learning. That's not knowledge. In general, this is the concept of Gilui. Gilui means that there is a sensation, the sense that this is coming from someplace. Even though the Gilui could be great. As a matter of fact, the essential Gilui, the essence of Gilui is unlimited. Like the sunlight. Sunlight is unrestrained. It goes all over, unlimited. But it's light, it's not the sun. It's the light of the sun. If you bring the sun over here, you won't have light. So even though it's a real Gilui, unrestrained Gilui, but it's still only Gilui, not the essence. And the only way you can have that Gilui is, and there is that which is outside, the place where the sun itself doesn't exist. I think that's sufficiently clear. This is the Inyan for Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya is the Inyan HaGilui, Moker HaGilui. Shem Havaya is the Moker HaGilui. That which makes Gilui possible. Because Hashem himself is completely above this whole Inyan. Atzmus. But in Hashem himself there is these names that he can be called, he can relate himself through names. And one name is Havaya, one name is Elokim, one name is Adni, and so forth. And the concept of these names is that he can relate and express himself in these different fashions. Okay? Okay, now we go inside. Hinan is boil you, what we explained earlier, the Shem Havaya who Moker HaGilui. Shem Havaya is the source of Gilui. The reason that he says Moker HaGilui, not the Gilui, because in fact this is not the Gilui. The Gilui is that which comes through Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya, this is the name, Hashem's name. This is how this Inyan HaGilui exists in Hashem himself. This is something, a name is something which is much closer. This is which is part of him. But through this name, he can reveal himself. Hainu, which means that this is Gilui Oir Bebchinas Bli Gvul. If we said that this is Moker HaGilui, it means a Gilui Oir that is Bli Gvul. Why is it a Gilui Oir Bli Gvul without a Gvul? Because we said that this is the Hashem's name. Hashem's name means that this is His own name. This is in Hashem Himself the property of Gilui. Therefore, this is an Gilui that reflects Hashem Himself. The Ha'oir Dovik b'Moir, where the Oir is Dovut is connected with the Moir, v'hu me'ein HaMoir. The Oir itself is me'ein HaMoir, is of the aspect, of the quality of the Moir himself. So I have to explain this a little bit.
Gilui bli gvul. Bli gvul, how does it become musical to be together?
I have to explain this a little bit. That Hoi Dovik b'Moir v'hu me'ein HaMoir. We say that Shem Havai, this is Hashem's name. Where is this name coming from? Who gave him this name? This name is really inherent in Hashem. It's Hashem's own name. If it's Hashem's own name, understand this. If it's a name that's given, then you could say that it was given by those, or by people, let's say, they would give a name that is from their perspective, the way they understand it. Like this is called a tissue because a human being uses it as a tissue. You can call it paper, you can call it whatever you want, but you call it a tissue. Why? Because human beings refer to it as a tissue. So it's not something that comes from itself. It comes from those people, from those who use it, from those to whom it applies. But Hashem Havaya, this is Hashem's own name. Nobody gave him this name. This is Hashem's own name. It means that this is something which comes from Himself. If it comes from Himself, that means that it is reflective of Himself. He Himself gave Himself this name. Therefore, it is reflective of who He is. Since He is Ein Sof, so therefore the Gilui is also Ein Sof. Because this is not a Gilui, that's not something that is being defined and recognized from outside. An outsider cannot relate to Ein Sof. But Hashem Himself is Ein Sof. So if Hashem gives Himself a name, He gives Himself a name the way He sees it, which is a Gilui Ein Sof, and the way it is in Him. Because this oil is something which comes from Him. It's not something that is being defined outside. It's something that's being defined inside Him. That clear? Understand what I'm saying? This oil that Shem Havaya is referring to, who identifies this oil? Who identified the oil? The oil was identified by Hashem Himself. When something is identified externally from outside, so then you could say that this name that you gave it is what's called a relative name, a functional name. To me, this is what it means. To me, this is a sefer. Somebody else is the paper. Excuse me?
He's not know, but he doesn't know anything. Who's humanity? He knows by knowing himself.
Right.
So
That's
so he's referring it back into himself.
unto himself. That means that this actually defines the inyan the way it is in him. The whole inyan hagili the way it is in him. And since he is bli gvul, so the gili is also bli gvul. Exactly the way he is. Except in Hashem himself there is that inyan that Hashem called himself by a name that's called gili. And he provided the inyan that there could be gili. What kind of gili? The gili that is him. It's megala him. Not a gili that's defined outside, the gili that's defined inside himself. And to go a little deeper in this itself, that if the union of Havaya is gili, why should Hashem restrain gili? Restrain, hold back.
It has to.
Why should he restrain?
It's how he's begun.
That's something else already. That's if he has that goes in Shem Alakim and so forth. But beside the Indian from Gili himself, why should it be restrained? Like the sun gives off light. The Indian that the sun gives off light, it gives off its own light. It does not transform this light and say, oh, okay, you need light over here. You need light over here. I'll give you. It doesn't go like this. It just opens itself up and let the light go. That's being given. Why should it not?
It's just like the sun when it's
I'm sorry?
It's physical and serious. So if it was the Gal, if Hashem did complete gilui for us, and we could never have any free choice, we would be completely known.
Well, that's right. That's why there couldn't be the creation from that gila. That we're coming to that. So from that gila cannot be the creation. But this is the first step. There has to be gila. And Shem Havaya is the mokara gila. I mean, Shem Havaya is the gila the way it is defined by Hashem. It's totally unrestrained.
So always was the evil way, right?
No, that's not that. That's it's not the day Hashem can have gilui or not give gilui. Hashem has there are no limits. The sun is bound to give off light. It's limited to this effect that it has to give off light. Gives off light. We'll say the neshama. The neshama can be begila, can be behel.
Understood that Shem Havaya is like Hashem Begilu to himself. You know? Quality that he by himself he recognizes himself.
But even well, that's already a different concept. But even that is also by choice.
By choice?
Yeah. There's nothing Hashem. There's absolutely nothing that we can identify in Hashem as a necessary presence.
When Hashem like
Hashem himself is total ayin. There's absolutely no presence whatsoever, of one kind or another. That Hashem is bound to be in this gala, or he has to have this kochas, has to have this, nothing.
Shem Havaya is when he's in
Oh,
a state of
that's already a gili. In Hashem, but this is all by choice. But this is much deeper than we want to go. But what we're talking about is Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya is the moker agil, which means that this is the way the agil is in Hashem himself, the source of gil. And therefore, this is unrestrained. This is the gili the way the Hashem is. The way the gili is in Hashem. is Mizgala himself. And therefore, it is B'Rikbu. Because the oil is Me'en HaMoyer. What is in Megala? It's Megala himself. Me'en HaMoyer. Ukshem she'hamoyer hu Ein Sof. Just as the Moyer is Ein Sof, K'moi Kein, ha'oyer Gamkin Ein Sof. Likewise, the oil is also Ein Sof. V'im Kein. And therefore, if so, Harei Einoi be'erech ha'oilames, it is totally not be'erech ha'oilames. Why? Shekol ha'oilames hein b'bchinas yeshul gvul kanal. Because oilam is by definition. That's what oilam means. That it's a yeshul gvul. V'oil ein sof hu bilti bal gvul.
Comparing to the ma'or.
No, it's reflective of the moyer.
Exactly, they have the same quality.
Oil me'en HaMoyer, except that this is oil and this is the moyer.
So what's the difference if it has the same qualities?
This is Gilui, like I said before, this is not the Etzem. This is the Gilui of it. The difference in Gilui and the Etzem. That's the whole difference.
But how does the Gilui has the same mashmal of the Etzem? Gilui is the Tzimtzum.
I don't know if we can sit another couple of minutes. I'll give you a stickle. We discussed this many times in the past. Using the moshel of the sun. We even discussed it last week, and we gave the moshel of the sun. The sun is the source of the light. Sun is called the mo'er. And here we have the oir. So the Alter Rebbe says, what about the place that the sun itself occupies? The sun is millions of miles across. I remember, one time I knew how big the sun is. The sun is millions of miles across. Is there light in this area or not? So the Alter Rebbe says, of course there is light in there. If there is light millions of miles away from the sun, why couldn't there be light inside? Of course there is light inside. So if there's light inside, will you then say that inside the sun it's light because the sun brings light to it? it illuminates it. You don't say it. Why? The answer is because inside the sun you don't need a light. Where do you need light? In a place where it's dark. You need light. But inside the sun, darkness doesn't exist. The sun is the moir. So this place that the sun occupies is a place that is fundamentally, just like over here, the primary state is darkness, unless you blink light in. Inside the primary state, inside the sun, the primary state is light, not darkness. You understand that? Yeah? Yes or no?
There's a continuation of it?
I'm asking if you understand.
Yes. Sort of.
Inside the sun, it's be'etzem light, because the sun itself doesn't know of darkness. There's no darkness in the sun. The sun is the essence of light. So there's no point of saying that there is light in there, because it's a fundamental place of light. So the sun itself is the essence of light. Okay? So now we get the light from the sun. And we get it here in the place of darkness. If not for the light of the sun, it would be dark over here. Right? I want you to miss this. If not for the place, for the light of the sun coming here, we would be dark over here. So we get only the light of the sun. Right? We get the light of the sun, so therefore it becomes light. But now, what kind of light do we get from the sun?
Mixed with the darkness.
Huh?
Mixed with the darkness.
There are two levels. There are two levels. There's a level whereby we could see the object, we could see this book. This is where the light is mixed with the darkness. And then there's another level. This is why I explained this, the concept of day. Concept of day, there's light and day. Oir is that which makes the objects visible. But Yom is something else. Yom, even if you look into space, you don't look into any object, you don't need to see anything. It's a time, it's day. Which means it is essentially day. It's a time that's lit up. That's light, there's no darkness. And the sensation that we have by day, the experience of daytime is that it's going to be lit forever. The fact that it gets dark is something new. Not like a candlelight that is to begin with a limited light that we only have light to see a place. It changes the whole atmosphere. It's a time of day. You experience the presence of sun, you experience the presence of fundamental light, of essential light. Even though you don't have the essential light, you only have the oil, the gili of the sun. But this oil is reflective of what the sun itself is. The sun is light through and through. And therefore we have a sensation, we have the light here, that it's light through and through. But not the etzem, only the gilui. Only the gilui of it. There's a difference between etzem and gilui. Okay?
So Gilui can change, but that's cannot change.
That's right.
We see the change, we see.
Gilui can be the gilui, it could be hella. Etzem is etzem. And Gilui can affect the place where the Etzem is not, in the place of darkness. The Etzem cannot. If the Etzem comes out, then the whole place is void. Everything is burnt up. No mitzias.
So the Gilu is the Ziv of Mispashim.
That's right. This is it for today.